The following video addresses the maintenance and repair of the LF856 Master Series Backflow Prevention Assembly from Febco. Before beginning any work, please familiarize yourself with these procedures to avoid injuring yourself or damaging the valve. Product resources, including IS and ES sheets, repair kit ordering information, and additional videos can be found at febcoonline.com. The LF856 features inlet and outlet shutoff valves, 2 check assemblies inside the valve body, 4 test cocks, and a bypass assembly. No special tools are needed for inspection or repair. You'll need a flathead screwdriver, an adjustable wrench, and a socket set. Febco backflow prevention assemblies can be serviced in line. We'll begin by shutting down the system. Note, this is a dry demonstration. In real-world applications, water will escape the valve during the following procedure. Take proper precautions. Slowly close the outlet shutoff valve. Slowly close the inlet shutoff valve. Bleed residual pressure trapped within the system by slowly opening the number 4, number 3, and number 2 test cocks, cupping your hand above the valves to minimize water spray. Disconnect the bypass connector. Remove the cover bolts, removing the 2 bolts which are located next to the cover retainer pin last. Note, there is some preload on the cover from the spring pack, so use care and caution while removing the cover. Inspect the bearing socket on the check cover. Excessive wear, cracking, or other apparent damage indicates replacement of the bearing socket is required. Remove the cover O-ring. Inspect the cover O-ring for damage and replace if needed. Note, during regular maintenance, the entirety of the check module does not need to be removed from the body of the valve for service. Instead, we will uninstall and inspect individual check components. Remove the pivot bearing from the upper spring retainer of the spring module. Inspect for wear and tear and replace if necessary. Remove the spring module for inspection. The spring is held in place by a load pin in 2 retaining clips. Remove one of the 2 retaining clips. Using the second clip as a handle, slide out the retaining pin. Lift the spring out of the valve and inspect for wear or damage and replace if necessary. Inspect the check disc. The check disc assembly is held in place by a jam nut connecting it to the check disc arm. Unscrew the jam nut and washer. Lift the check disc arm and carefully remove the check disc assembly. Inspect the seat sealing surface for debris or damage. Note, with the check disc assembly removed, the check seat sealing surface is now exposed. Care should be taken not to drop the check disc arm onto the seat sealing surface. We recommend wrapping the check disc arm in a rag to minimize potential contact of these 2 components. Inspect the check disc rubber. If the rubber is damaged, it can be removed by unscrewing the 4 bolts, reversing the rubber, and reinstalling. Remove the 4 bolts, clean the check disc components, remove the check disc rubber, rinse the rubber of any dirt or debris, and then reverse and reinstall. If both sides are damaged, it should be replaced. If the check sealing surface is damaged, the seat will need repair or replacement. The seat should only be removed if the arm or seat ring appears to be worn or damaged. To remove, disconnect the 4 lock nuts on the exterior of the valve holding the seat ring in place. Carefully lift it from the valve body. With the check components cleaned and repaired as needed, it's time to rebuild. If you remove the seat ring assembly, make sure to properly reinstall and lubricate all O-rings, stud and main sealing surface, and evenly tighten the 4 locking nuts. Do not over-tighten the locking nuts. Reconnect the check disc assembly to the arm by rethreading and tightening the jam nut and washer. Note, when the jam nut is tight, the check disc is designed to wobble. Reconnect the spring assembly by replacing the load pin and retaining clips. Reinstall the pivot bearing. Replace the cover O-ring, lubricating as needed. Reinstall the cover, aligning the pivot bearing to the bearing socket and retainer pin to the retaining pin hole. Rethread bolts in a cross pattern, starting with the 2 bolts on either side of the retainer pin. Torque wrench tight in a cross pattern to ensure the cover is evenly threaded. Repeat the previous procedure for the second check, replacing damaged components as needed and ensuring the valve body is free of dirt or debris. The bypass features a backflow assembly which should be inspected and repaired as needed. The bypass can be isolated by closing the inlet and outlet shutoffs and bleeding residual pressure. Using a wrench, remove the valve cover. With the cover removed, the cover O-ring, spring, and check disc holder can be removed. Carefully remove the check seat. Inspect and clean all check components and replace as necessary if damaged. If the check disc rubber is damaged, it can be removed, reversed, and reinstalled in lieu of ordering a replacement. If both sides are damaged, it should be replaced. To rebuild, reinstall the check seat, ensuring it's properly positioned in the valve. Replace the check disc holder, spring, cover O-ring, and cover hand tight, plus a quarter turn with a wrench. Finish by opening the inlet and outlet shutoffs. Once both checks have been reassembled, it's time to restart the system. First, reconnect the bypass connector, hand tight, plus a quarter turn with a wrench. Close the number 2, number 3, and number 4 test cocks. Slowly open the inlet shutoff valve halfway and allow the valve to fill with water. Bleed air from test cock number 2, number 3, and number 4 in this order by cupping your hand over the valve, opening halfway until water flows from the open port, and then closing the valve. Once all air is purged from the system, fully open the inlet shutoff valve. Before opening the outlet shutoff valve, Check with local governing test and code requirements prior to reactivating the backflow assembly for system use. For more information on the Master Series Backflow Prevention Assembly, head over to febcoonline.com. For more information on the Master Series Backflow Prevention Assembly, head over to febcoonline.com.